Alright. Hello everyone. Let me just make sure microphone and everything is good. Okay, so today I'm going to be working on a new model on my model railroad. It's actually not a building, it's going to be a caboose. So, let me just get to the comments on my channel. That way I can read what you guys are saying to me. Okay, that's good. Alright, hello Mateo, hello Daniel, hello Sniper, hello Jacob. Jacob says, is that a real old school loco train I spy? Yep, I have nothing but steam locomotives, narrow gauge steam locomotives on my layout. My layout is what's called an On30. On30 stands for O gauge, narrow, 30-inch, which means 30-inch gauge, as in real life, the measurement between the rails. So yeah, but today I think I have the camera on my right, so I have to make sure that I don't move this way or you guys can't see my face. I have this model that I got a while ago. It's from Mount Blue Model Company. I've never heard of it, but there's all kinds of little companies that make models and stuff. And I really wanted a specific caboose. So the one I have for my model railroad, it's actually way behind me and you can't really see it, but it's like a bobber caboose. A bobber means that it's got only 2 axles, except this one has 4 axles. And but it's still the same size. And I'm thinking that's okay for a small train. Like I have a log train that's got only 3 log cars on it, and I think that the little caboose is fine for that. But I have this freight train that is 5 cars long, and I would like to have an appropriately sized caboose for that, as weird as that might sound. And so so I got this model kit, and it's made of wood. It's laser cut. So basically you have to like take it out of the parts and then assemble it. There's this huge guidebook that tells you how to assemble it. It doesn't look too complicated. I think I do more complex stuff with my own... Oh my. Oh, that does look complicated. I thought this would like take me like a day to like knock out, but this is definitely not gonna take a day. It'll look great though. It's got full interiors. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can't see it. It's got full interiors, so it's got actual benches, a potbelly stove, doors, all kinds of metal pieces that are fashioned to make it functional in terms of, you know, at least make it look functional, I mean. And then the underside has got actual... The underside of the caboose has actual framework, which is not something you usually see unless you buy a really detailed kit. I didn't realize that I bought a really detailed kit. So it looks like they took photos and measurements from the actual prototype caboose that exists. This caboose is number 556 of the Sandy River and Rangeley Lake Railroad, or Rangeley Lakes Railroad. So it's a Maine narrow gauge, and normally the narrow gauge in Maine is 2 feet wide, but I have an ON30 layout, so it's modified for ON30. Well, actually, you could make it 2 foot if you wanted, but I bought... Aren't both of them here? Oh, the other one's over there. I bought freight trucks for the caboose, but I also bought extra passenger trucks for the caboose. Why passenger trucks, you might ask? Apparently this caboose originally was constructed with passenger-style wheel trucks. But normally on cabooses you see freight-style wheel trucks. But I bought passenger-style ones and freight ones. I wasn't sure which ones I actually wanted. But I bought passenger ones as well because the passenger ones have the capability for you to electrify the caboose, as in install lights in the caboose. I have lights. I have a small little stockpile of lights that were left over from when I put lights into the passenger cars. So I still have them. And so I bought electrified passenger trucks. The only thing is, I think that passenger trucks look kind of weird on a caboose. So I still haven't fully decided what I'm going to do yet. But maybe you guys will help me decide that. Hello, little gamer. Hello, Daniel. Hello, Everett. Cormac. Jacob. Ozzy. Ozzy, the weather is great today. No rain. It's a little bit damp outside, though, as if it rained this morning and just never dried out. But pretty nice. Jacob says, Locomotive Shed looks real good. Thank you so much. It's almost done. I just haven't gotten around to finishing it yet. It just needs the doors and it needs the windows. And then parts of the roof need to finish being assembled. They're like already built. They just haven't been fully assembled yet. So there's still more work to be done. Hello, young ship historian. Brian Rock. Carter says, are you going to play Vehicle Simulator for the Queen Mary's maiden voyage? I don't know what that is. I don't play very many video games, if that's what that is. Chris says, some of my tank models took me about 2 or 4 weeks to fully build. They were skill level 4 and 5. They also had full interiors. 2 to 4 weeks? Oh my gosh, I do not have that kind of patience. Does this say what skill level it is? I don't yet know what skill level I have. I've kind of just made stuff. And so I think what I make looks pretty good. So I've never like thought about what my limitations are in terms of skill level, because I've never actually reached my limitations. But this definitely looks complicated. Yeah, this looks like the most complex model that I will ever build. But I think the end result will be amazing if I can be patient. That's the key thing, folks, is I will admit here and now, when it comes to building models, I do not have any ounce of patience. I don't know why. I guess I've just always liked buying ready-to-run stuff. It just works easier and doesn't require as much thinking. Yeah, so I will admit right now, for those that are probably like, oh, well, just a little bit of patience, and it's like, I don't have patience. This model's supposed to be assembled with wood glue. I don't have patience for wood glue, so I'm going to be using a special type of super glue. It's a gel glue. It can glue wood just fine. Yeah, it can glue wood just fine. Wood glue, though, I think just overall probably has a better bond. But I'm not worried about the bond. Like it's not like I'm gonna like use the caboose to lean on if I need like support standing up or anything like that. Same thing I said with my train layout. People told me, "No, you should build your mountain with like, I don't know." They said like they had all kinds of techniques for making it extra strong, but it seemed a bit overly strong in my opinion, and I basically always tell people the same thing. It's not like I'm going to lean on it, and if I do lean on it, then it's by accident, and there's probably nothing I can do about it anyway. So, but yeah, but I don't want any of you guys to be surprised if I suddenly do something that seems impatient, and it's only because I don't have patience. I'm just kind of looking at the different parts, because when I open a model kit, which is very rarely, I don't always build model kits. I usually just build everything from scratch, but I like looking at all the things I have first, just to kind of get an inventory in my head of what everything is. This looks like plastic for the windows, but at the same time it looks like paper. I'll probably find out what it is in the instructions. Oh, that's interesting. That's a clear plastic cord. Looks like fiberglass. It could be fiberglass. Fiber optic, I mean. It looks like fiber optic. But it's not pure enough to be fiber optic, I don't think. Looks like it's got some little micro bubbles in it. And then this has all kinds of borders and stuff. There's the end of the caboose there. Oh boy. And then, what is this? There's a Kleenex in here. I think it's just for padding. Okay. So, oh no. Where'd it go? That was the fiber optic. Alright. Let's see if anybody's commented. Ozzy says, they're starting to let people spend the night on the Queen Mary now, overnight the rooms. I haven't checked the news today, so unless that news came out today, then I don't know. But I checked last night. There was no opening date set as of last night. Carter says, how many Cunard Afternoon live or tea live streams do you have? Honestly, it's not about counting them. It's just those live streams are meant for us to just hang out. So I know some channels do live streams that are specifically themed, like each episode is about something very specific. That's not what the afternoon live streams are. They're not meant to be like a series. It's just time for me and my viewers to hang out, because I wanted to do something different than what other channels do, because there's a lot of people who, they really could just, it's just something that they need, I know I need it. Time to just talk. So yeah. Let's see. Daniel says, hey Alex, was Queen Mary ever close to being torpedoed? It depends on who you ask, but there is a story. I don't remember what year. I want to say 1945. But there was a time when the Queen Mary was off the coast. I don't remember if it was off the coast of the United States or if it was Ireland or Scotland. See, what I do know is that there is a story that as the ship was traveling along, there was a large explosion just 300 yards off the starboard side. 300 yards off the starboard side. And to this day, they don't know what it was. Now, some people have speculated it was a torpedo that blew up, what do they say? For lack of better words, blew up before it hit its target. And then some people, like me, believe that the ship had triggered a magnetic mine. There were mines underwater that were triggered by the magnetic field emitted by the hull of a ship. The ship did have a degaussing strip along the entire length of her hull. But the thing is that nobody really knows how effective that was. So I think the main thing that people think happened with that explosion was that despite the degaussing strip on the Queen Mary, the ship's hull did trigger an underwater mine just 300 yards off the bow. Or off the starboard, starboard bow, whatever. But as for torpedo, no, there's no stories of there being a torpedo necessarily missing the Queen Mary. So, but the Queen Mary did have one or two close calls with a submarine, just the submarine never had a chance to fire at her. So, I should say not just a submarine, a U-boat. Okay. Alright, that's the history. Tools. We recommend Elmer's wood glue for wood-to-wood joining. I'm going to use super glue. You also need a sharp knife or two. Got those. A couple of squares. I'm a square, so that's one. No, I have a square. Sanding sticks or files. Some thick white glue. That would probably be like Elmer's. I have Elmer's. Drills. I have drills. Paints of your choice. Yeah. All parts should be pre-painted and painted in sub-assemblies. The prototype car is a barn-type red with white lettering and black trucks. Roof should be as red as it was canvas painted with red lead paint. I'll think about that. I'm not going for 100% accuracy here. My layout is not meant to be a specific place in a real environment. It is kind of made up. So, but I do like the idea of the walls of the caboose being barn red. I've never liked yellow cabooses or orange cabooses. I've always liked red. And not just bright red, but like barn red or like a rust red. So even though I'm probably going to have two cabooses on the layout that are like the same type of red, that's just me. I'm just weird. Little Gamer says lead. Yes, lead was used in lots of colors of paint back then. I have a postcard on a shelf over there that is a postcard of RMS Mauritania from 1911. The postcard dates back to 1911. And it is painted with colors of paint that contain lead and arsenic. So it is kept in a plastic envelope, and I try not to touch the envelope at all, unless I absolutely need to, like for cleaning. But yeah, you'll be surprised what kind of stuff they put in paints back then. Sheridan, thank you so much. Thanks, young ship historian. Okay, so, alright, assembly. Assembly is broken down into sections. The body first, the frame next, finally the interior. Sides will be built up flat, then assembled to form the car body. The sides will be built up flat, then assembled to form the car. I see, okay, I see. Start by sticking interior side wall A1 to window wall B1. Do I have to paint all this before I take it off of the... I think it said something along those lines. Let me get my green board. Alright, so like I said, I don't have a specific skill level. I just kind of try something, and usually I'm pretty good at it. So, we'll see what I can do and not screw this thing up. So this is like a special, like, I don't know what to call it. I just call it like a cutting board for hobbies. So, alright. Try not to block your view. Okay. I think some of this will have to be painted before I can actually assemble it. So when people ask me, they say, Alex, what's your favorite part about building model railroads? And they say, do you like the construction process? My usual response is no. You'll see me build a lot of stuff myself, but I actually don't like building models. I like playing with models. So, um, so, but I build models because if I want to have the things I want, then I gotta build them myself. So, I'm gonna try to open this package without ripping it to shreds because I may need to put things back inside. Okay. These are really thin sheets. These thicker ones seem to be the walls. Okay, I'll move this one over here. These ones are definitely thicker, so they're probably the walls. They're a little bit warped. The back of it feels so weird. It feels fuzzy. There is something on the back. What is this? It's like a foam or something. Wish there was kind of like a parts diagram. Oh, there is a parts diagram. Here we go. That way I don't have to figure everything out myself. Jeez. Okay. Okay, so A1 to B1. A1 to B1. This is A1. This is... Oh, really? This does not look like B1. That's a different sheet. Ah, that looks like B1. There we go. Okay. Move that one up here. Okay, I think I see what's going on here. So, A1, the thicker one, is the outer walls. B1, the thinner one, is the inner walls. Why there would be an outer wall and an inner wall, I don't know. Mateo says they might be peel and stick. That's what I was kind of thinking. It says start by sticking interior sidewall A1 to window wall B1. Stick assembly to exterior wall C1, lining up to the top edge. So that's interior wall C. D. Okay, so that's C. This one I moved up here is C. Does C have a... It does. It has a backing. So this is like a sandwich. Why? Yeah, I can see why some people would say this would take weeks to build. It is really complicated. What I'm building today, Mike, is a caboose. It is caboose number 556 from the Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes Railroad, which is a main 2-foot narrow gauge model, but of course it's will be On30 for my layout. Problem is that this is a really complex model, and the more I delve into it, the more complex it looks. I see. It's built in layers to make it appear more three-dimensional. So each wall, it actually has layers to it. Jeez. All parts should be pre-painted or painted in sub-assemblies. Okay. Okay, so I guess that means I need to paint first. I was kind of hoping that I wouldn't have to paint till later on, but okay. Says, do you know what would happen if a rogue wave had hit Queen Mary and Long Beach? Well, it's not really possible for a rogue wave to hit Queen Mary and Long Beach. Rogue waves only happen out at sea. If you meant like a tsunami or a tidal wave or something, it would have to be a really big wave to do anything. And the reason why is because the Long Beach Harbor is surrounded in a large breakwater that is a mile out into the water. And then the Queen Mary herself is surrounded in her own breakwater. So there are two levels that would slow the movement of a wave. So it would need to be a really tall wave. But yeah, it would need to be something on the scale of like what happened to Japan in 2011 to really do something scary. Ozzy says you can go to Queen Mary and book a room one night. I've checked. Okay, I'll have to look at that later. I'm surprised because what's weird about it is why would they let you book a room before they've ever announced the opening date of the ship? Like, usually the opening date comes first, then they open up bookings, which tells me that it's probably not actually open for booking. if you're going by the Queen Mary website, I wouldn't trust that too much. The Queen Mary website has been abandoned since 2020. Literally abandoned. No one's working on it. So I hope that's not what you're going off of. Again, I need to check online first before I can say yay or nay on anything. But anyway, I can't make a booking just yet. I don't have the money to go. Daniel says, hey, Alex, what tree will you use on the railroad? There will be different kinds of trees. There will be maple trees. There will be, of course, Douglas fir trees and other kinds of evergreens native to Northwest Oregon. So, yeah. That's the kind of trees I will have. Okay. So because this goes on the... Oh, is this an interior wall? And this is an exterior wall, and then this is in between. I think I'm starting to see how this works now. Okay. So this will need to be tan. This will need to be the red color I want. I'll need to mix up and store the red color so I don't have to keep mixing it every time. Sorry, I know I should be working on this, but all I can think of is how overwhelming this is. I didn't expect it to be like this. I've put together model kits, but nothing like this. Okay. Mike says, oh, is this the caboose? Yeah, this is the caboose. There's a picture of it here. Well... So, yeah. That's a picture of it unpainted, by the way. Alright, so... paint. Oh, that's right. I have these kits that allow you to build and paint waterfalls. Thing is, it comes with these little, like, it comes with, like, these cups for holding paint, and I don't need it. So, but right now, I could use it for this, so that's what I'm looking for. Yeah. Oh, but it already has color in it. Jeez. What is that? So, this kit comes with all kinds of stuff. Wow. It all dried up. Well, that sucks. This kit for making a waterfall is supposed to come with all the ingredients and things you will need to make a waterfall. And all the ingredients dried up. I've never opened this kit before. I got it for last Christmas. Jeez. Alright, well, yeah, everything dried up. That's crazy. What about these? I was really looking forward to using that kit, too. Alright, well that's too small anyway for what I need. I'll have to empty out one of those to fill it with paint. I'm trying to think if I have like a jar or... I do, actually. I'll be right back. Oh, okay. I thought I had more than just one, but I only have one. I can use that for the exterior. Okay. Use those later. Let's get out the red that I need. Dino says, check YouTube for a video on how to assemble. I think even if there was a video for how to assemble this, I don't think I have the patience for watching it. Willem, I'm so sorry to hear that. It's middle of winter here, so it's pretty cold, but yeah. Try to stay cool. Historic travels. Wow, are you in Japan? That's crazy. Alright, so paint. These will require some mixing, like a lot of mixing. Magenta. A lot of people have these really nice, expensive paints for making models. I have like the cheapest model paints you can buy because I don't have a lot of money. But the thing about model paints is that these actually work really well if you know what you're doing with them. So here's some brown. Trying to think. Okay. gray, and black. The idea here is to mix together a paint that looks the same color as this boxcar. So I will keep that for reference. Okay. Let's see. Willem, let's not bother other YouTubers if they don't want to respond. Ozzy says, yes, Alex, Sam is visiting Japan. Wow, that's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, I'd like to visit Japan someday. Maybe. I'm not like that. Like, I'd rather visit, like, England first, but I think, yeah, I think after visiting England, I think eventually I would like to visit Japan. Someday. Something to... Actually, let's just leave this out, just in case. Alright, first we start with red. Well, I can just squeeze out. Immediately got paint on myself. Okay. Thankfully, these paints are pretty cheap, so, you know, if I run out or something, I can always buy more. But with those other paints, like the Mr. Color or the Timea, those can be kind of expensive, so if I need to buy more, it's not hard, but just not cheap. So for that specific color that these cars have, it's mostly a brownish color, but I have a feeling that it will require more red than brown. And then a little bit of this gray, because the gray, I think, will help dull the vibrancy of the red. Alright, let's see. It's looking promising. Okay, so it'll definitely require more brown. I should have like a whole giant jar of brown over there, so I'm not worried about running out of this one. Mix, mix, mix. Okay. A touch of black. Mike says, I'd like to visit Austria. Nice. I can't think of any specific places in Austria, but I would love to visit various countries in Europe. Belfast, Ireland. I want to visit Belfast, Ireland to see the Titanic train museum, or Titanic Museum. I got trains on the mind. Titanic Museum. That's Belfast is definitely on my list for when I do my trip to the UK. I have to be really careful with this because I don't want to get the black paint everywhere. We've already been on this live stream for 45 minutes, and I haven't even started yet. That's how, like, you know, flustered I am. Alright, that's it. I need... Where's my, paper towels? Sometimes I kind of envy the folks that have a whole garage that they can build models in because they have the space. I've got only this table. So, for those that are wondering, my Disneyland Railroad video and my steam turbines video are doing very, very well. So I'm very happy about that. So for those that have been wondering, oh, how's the channel doing? It's doing really good. So thank you. Oh, for heaven's sake. Carter says, can you visit Titanic Slipway? Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's why I plan to go to Belfast. You know, anybody who goes to Belfast, yeah, you have to see the Titanic Museum, the Titanic Slipway, the Titanic Dry Dock, which currently has the HMS Caroline in it. All that stuff will be really awesome to see. I'm getting close to that color. I think it needs more brown. It's getting dark enough, though, that's for sure. Which is good. I want it to be dark. It needs more brown. Mike says, the steam turbine video was very cool. Thanks. Yeah, the next video will come out next Friday. I might do something short for Tuesday if I have time. But the next, like, big video will come out Friday. And that will be about the Forney steam locomotives and the history of those things. Okay, let's I'm just gonna hold the paint stick up to it. Wow, that looks really close. Honestly, like, if there was just a touch more black in there, that would be spot on. Oh, what the heck. I try not to waste stuff, so I didn't want to, like, waste a whole stick, but I can always break a piece off or whatever. Okay, so here's a little more black to darken it up. Just a little bit more. Some people I heard are actually mixing paint is not their strongest suit, but I've always been pretty good at mixing paints, no matter what kind, whether it's oil paints. Cause I used to I used to actually paint, pictures in oil. I've also got experience painting in acrylic paints for like actual paintings. Same thing with, I'm rambling again. But and then of course building models. I've mixed acrylic model paints and water-based model paints. I'm usually pretty good at mixing colors to match the things I want them to look. Gosh, that is spot on, I think. Wow. And when it dries, it'll look matte. Because right now it's glossy because it's wet, But I think it'll match that perfectly. Alright, let's give this a try. So, we take some paper towels. Mike says, looking forward to the video on Oceanic. You and me both. I want to do that. I wouldn't expect a full history video, though. It's going to be like a topic video about certain aspects. So there will be multiple videos in the long run about Oceanic and other ships. But I think in the last couple of weeks, I kind of decided it's probably not the best idea for me to do full history videos anymore, because what happens with those full history videos is I work for months and months and months on them, doing all the research, and then finally when I've gathered everything and I think I have enough knowledge and I've done enough research to cross-reference everything, then what I do is I start working on the script, which takes sometimes up to a week. Then after that, I narrate. I then start assembling the video, editing it together, adding the music, blah, blah, blah. And then what happens is some other channel comes and they post exactly the video I wanted to post. It's not their fault. They don't know that I'm working on that. It's just a big coincidence. But nevertheless, it makes it so it's not a good idea for me to post my video. Because, people will watch cat videos multiple times, but people will not watch a full documentary on something by multiple people in the same period of time. They'll usually wait to see something. And plus, I don't want it to look like I'm, posting my videos right after other people to kind of get the same attention, and that's not who I am. That's not what I do. There's plenty of other stuff that I can cover. It doesn't have to be that ship. But nevertheless, it made me realize that it's probably a good idea to not do full history videos as much, or if not at all. Just because, unless it's a ship that I think absolutely nobody will cover anytime soon. Like my Disneyland Railroad video, I worked on that whole thing because I knew that pretty much nobody was going to do what I was about to do. Yeah. I'm trying to think about the color and what kind of paintbrush. In the future, I'll probably come back to add some borders and things to it in a different shade of red. Maybe I'll do that before I assemble this thing. I don't know. But first, let's get the outside painted. I should probably get other outside pieces ready too, since I have it all here, right? So that's inside. Okay. That's all inside. This looks like exterior. That's the floor. Or that could be the floor. Or the underside. Alright, let's look at the diagram again. Everett says, I'm extremely interested in your upcoming presentation on the Forneys, and especially their application to the Disney Railroad system. Thanks! Yeah, it's going to be really cool. Alright. Okay, these are exteriors. I was right. Those are exterior. Alright, those other pieces will have to be... I see. Alright, well there is still one missing part. That's interior. That's exterior. This is so confusing, because if this is a sandwich and some parts of the sandwich stick out, maybe those parts that stick out have to be painted. What sheet is that? That should be B. Yeah, that's B. Door guides. These are the sides of the cupola. Yeah. Those will have to be painted. But what about that? To be honest, I think most of that will need to be painted, actually. Cupola intermediate wall. 11 is sliding windows. The sliding windows, I want that to have a different color. So I'll probably do a different shade of red for that. 13 is the coal box back. Coal box? Oh, for the stove. Okay. Seat backs, rest backs. The interior walls will need to be a different color, so I'll save that for something else. The intermediate walls, parts of them will need to be different colors. Jeez. Carter says, do you have photos of Titanic and Olympic in their slipways in 1911? I have it in my collection. But, yeah, you can Google it. Like Mike says, like, you can actually Google it. It's easy to find. What's 10? Cupola interior wall. Cupola interior wall. Those need to be a different color. So those don't get painted. That's 2. Cupola window panel. Window panel. Oh, I see. I thought I was going crazy because I was like, the cupola looks like it has 2 different sized windows. It kind of does, though. Okay. What are those again? 2. Cupola window panel. Guessing that's an intermediate layer. Ay. Okay. And then what are those? Six door guards. 12 steps. 15 backrests. Okay, well the steps will need to be the brown color as well. Okay. I think I know what all needs to be painted this brown color. I need a jar of white. TT says, "Hi Alex, what happened on the maiden voyage of the Queen Mary after she arrived in New York? Did she wait there a few days and then get ready on her way back to Europe?" Yes, so the Queen Mary would do a turnaround, and I think the turnaround was about 2 days. Just approximately. There's a certain amount of hours. I forget how many hours, but I think it was about 2 days it took to turn around the Queen Mary. She would arrive. Usually she would arrive early in the mornings. The passengers wouldn't have to get off immediately. They would stay, finish sleeping, wake up, go to breakfast on the ship, that kind of thing. Meanwhile, stewards and stewardesses, everybody aboard the ship was preparing to disembark the passengers. The passengers would usually disembark in the early afternoon or late afternoon. Meanwhile, besides the passengers, inside the ship, more stuff is being turned around. So they're removing trash, garbage, linens, all that kind of stuff, bringing in new stuff on the next evening. So it took almost 2 days to turn the ship around. Today, the Queen Mary 2 can be turned around in exactly 24 hours, which is lightning fast. So, yeah, that's pretty fast. For a ship the size of Queen Mary 2, that's fast. Alright, let me get my cup of water for paint. I had a Tupperware here for that. Never mind, the Tupperware usually used is occupied. Alright. I have my water here. Hi, Lori. Walt's nephew saw E.P. Ripley in the roundhouse. Yeah, E.P. Ripley's been testing. Robert says, consent experience what the do was in the bridge officer is responsible according to rank. Example, first officer versus fifth. What? I think you're asking what the different responsibilities of the bridge officers were according to rank. I don't know all of that yet, but what I mean, of the things I do know, there's several officers. I don't know all of them. The captain was obviously the captain of the ship. He could also technically be the Commodore because the Queen Mary was the flagship of Cunard Line. So often the Commodores were in charge of the Queen Mary. So the captain could be the Commodore, is what I'm trying to say. And the Commodore was usually literally in charge of everything on the ship, responsible for everything, I should say. The staff captain was... You don't usually hear a staff captain on an ocean liner, not until the later years at least. But staff captains were basically doing the basic jobs of the captain, except that the Commodore was usually so busy that he needed his responsibilities to be shared. So the staff captain did that. Staff captain also had an overlap with their shift. The staff captain usually worked whenever the Commodore was not on the bridge. But even if the Commodore was on the bridge, sometimes, depending on the overlap, the staff captain would be somewhere else. You had the first officer who was basically also sharing duties with the staff captain, except the first officer was less in rank, but they were involved with the day-to-day operations of the ship, and also making sure the ship was on course and all of that stuff. There was navigation officers, possibly one or two. Navigation officers were in charge of making sure the ship was on course and setting a course in case there was a change necessary. Also logging the course, so the navigation officers logged the course the ship would take. There were so many, but I don't know them all yet. I'm still pretty new to that. Robert says autocorrect sucks. Yeah, I understand. I was kind of like looking at it, I'm like, I don't understand what that means. But I think I got it. Yeah, so... But I don't know all the officers. Okay. I'm gonna wet this first. I don't usually wet the paintbrush first, but I have a feeling it will help to help the painting process. Hold on to your butts. Alright, let's see. So this may require multiple coats of paint. Oh, wow. This, the wood is just absorbing the paint. I'm used to painting on canvas, which has a gesso layer. So painting on this, the wood is just like soaking up the paint. I've never seen that before. Okay. I have to remember downward strokes because that's how it would have been painted. You can actually see the strokes, and it'll have another coating to make it, you know, make more sense. But, not make more sense. So it looks more even. But nevertheless, it's always good to try to paint in the same direction they would have painted. Let's see here. It is looking cool, though. It's already looking like a caboose. I like this color. I think I very closely match the color of the other car. And if I still have paint left over at the end of this project, who knows, it might help with doing some paint touch-ups to other cars in the future. I'm pretty good at matching paints. I don't know why. I have a lot of talents that I acquired just by observation. I'm very good at observing what people are doing and then copying it. So I think there's all these talents I have that I just somehow acquired. Yeah, wax on, wax off. Exactly. I was going to watch that movie last night, Karate Kid, but I didn't have enough time. It was getting too late. So I'll probably watch it tonight. Today is kind of like my day off from YouTube, if you will. I know I'm doing a live stream, but I consider it my day off from YouTube because I'm not working on a history video today. I'm not doing anything on history videos today. After I post a history video to YouTube, my brain is exhausted. Like, my brain doesn't want to do any more of that thinking. So I try to do something that doesn't require the same kind of thinking. And I call that, like, my day off from YouTube. Yeah, this is gonna look good. Yeah, I'm not used to painting things so soon in the assembly phase. But I do know there are some models that you just do have to paint first. And this is definitely one of them. Boy, this paint, the packaging looks like it's for kids, but the scent is really strong. You almost think it's completely poisonous. It probably is, actually. It's acrylic. But it's funny because, you know, like my dad is a very experienced model builder. And so when he was working on that little farmhouse that I have behind me, he was like, okay, I'm ready to paint this. Where's the paint? And I was like a little bit embarrassed because I didn't have like the brand name paints that he would probably use because I don't have that much money. I have these like cheap paints and they look like they're kids' paints. It's called Apple Barrel, right? That's the name of the company, Apple Barrel. Or the brand, at least, not the company. And they look like little kids' finger paints, but they're not. They smell like if you were to, like, put a match near them, it would explode. So, but they work. They look really nice. You know, my dad painted that farmhouse with it, and it looks just as good as it would have been painted with, like, a brand name like Timea. Yeah, this will definitely need a second coat. Pokey Smoochie's here. Hey Alex, you are so talented. Your builds look incredible and realistic. You have a gift for creativity. From your videos to your layout, you're awesome. Thank you so much. It's a whole lot of compliments all at once. Yeah, it's weird. I have like all these weird talents. I'm very artistic in that sense. I guess I get it from my dad, you know, just watching him work on models and stuff my whole life, you know. My dad used to be in the small films industry, independent films, I think you call them, independent films. He was an art director for a few things. So I've just always admired creativity and building things with your hands, you know. I'm not much of a carpenter, but if I really need to make something out of wood, I can. It probably won't look amazing, but it does the job. And I don't know, I've always just been really good at doing stuff like physical artwork. If someone asks me to make something digitally, I try that and I'm just not that good at it. I'm okay. I can get it done if I have the right software. But I don't even know as much as the kids these days who use that software. And I like working with real paint, not digital paint. My friend Eric, he's been going to school and learning art and stuff because, well, he wanted to become an animator one day. It seems like his career is taking him in a completely different path, but he was telling me just last night, because we called on the phone last night, and he said that he thinks that very soon he's going to get one of those special, I forget what the computers are called, but they're what animators use. They're touchpad computers. They're huge screens, and you draw on them. And he's going to get one of those. They're not exactly cheap, but they're not exactly expensive when you compare them to like an Apple computer or something. But he wants to get one of those, and I was like, yeah, if you have the money, go for it, because, you know, if you can get into a creative job, you know, that would be really neat. Granted, like I said, his career path is taking him in a different direction, so I don't know that he will eventually choose to be an animator, but it does make him happy. I always tell people, like, even if you're not in the job you want, having a hobby can actually really help you to, you know, to kind of recenter yourself if you have time. I know a lot of people don't have times for hobbies. There were many years where I never was able to work on trains or models or anything because my job made me so busy. And one day I was like looking at myself in the mirror, getting ready for work, and I was like, I am not happy. I was like, I asked myself, I'm like, what kind of life do I want to have? Do I want to have a life where I'm busy, I'm making money, and, you know, yeah, I'm making money, but is it a life where I'm doing what I love to do? Am I happy? I think I just told myself I really wasn't that happy. That was my career in the cooking industry. So, yeah, I think eventually that's what kind of led me to a different path. I'm really hoping a second coat of paint eventually will help this look better, because it looks a bit blotchy. Some areas I had to go back and paint over because they looked a bit too light, and now there's like different blotches. I'll just try it again with the second coat. Robert says, I work on the VNT Railroad in Virginia City. You should try working on the real thing. It's so much fun. We got done building a 1920s caboose. Yeah, I live way too far from anything like that. I have thought about volunteering. I heard squeaking, but I have thought about volunteering for railroads. But yeah, I live too far from all of them. At least all the ones I would want to work. And I don't drive because of my schizophrenia, so it would be impossible for me to get there and do what I need to do. All right. See you later, Mike. Everett says, hobbies keep you centered. Thank God. Life isn't all about work and family. You know, hobbies can really help you. I know they help me, that's for sure. A lot of people, you see, I do suffer from schizophrenia. A lot of people with schizophrenia end up in hospitals or are homeless. And it's not because they necessarily choose to be that way, although there might be one or two that choose to be that way. But it's because literally they have so much difficulty um, maintaining reality, and therefore the stress of life leads them to emotional breakdowns, and then they can't do their jobs. And I've had people with schizophrenia say, "Alex, how do you do it? You know what? You know, how are you still taking care of yourself and doing all the things you want to do?" And to be honest, I think it's different for everybody. I don't think my solution necessarily works for everybody, but I know that my hobbies keep me centered. It's honestly what this does, as overwhelming as this might be to build this caboose. Um, it does keep me centered. It does help me to relax. I think the biggest problem with mental illnesses like schizophrenia is that what leads you down that path is the inability to recenter yourself, to get rid of that stress on a daily life. Instead, with schizophrenia, it builds up and builds up, and the next thing you know, you're biting someone's ear off at a at a light rail station. That happened here in Portland recently, by the way. That's totally real. And so, yeah, I try to tell people, what works for me is just keeping my brain occupied with the things I like to do in between all that stress. So, and I think that actually could help a lot of people, not just people with mental illness, but just people who are just stressed in general. Some people can handle a lot of stress. I've seen them, my sister, her job is really stressing. There's a lot of responsibility on her shoulders. I don't know how she does it. But, she does. Hey Derek, how's it going? Everett says, thank you for sharing your perspective on how you manage your schizophrenia by using hobbies. Yeah, absolutely. And also socializing with people. One of the reasons why I do these live streams, because let me tell you guys right now, if I was doing everything that made me comfortable, I would not be doing these live streams. I would not be doing this in front of you guys. Being in front of people makes me uncomfortable. But, scientists, doctors, everybody associated with human health will tell you that humans are social creatures. They need to be able to communicate with other people and be a part of something. And I think with schizophrenic people and other people with mental health disorders that make them antisocial, what they don't realize is that they think that by moving away from being social, they can relax. But I think moving away from being social can actually make things worse. That's my hypothesis, at least, based off of what I understand from the human psyche. And so there's a huge power in being able to meet new people, talk to them, be a part of something. And I think that's also what keeps me sane, is being able to do these live streams, talk to you guys, and then, because I think I do go on walks and stuff with my dad and stuff, and I talk to my family, but if that's not enough, I think these live streams help me to talk to people and maintain socialization. And I think that's also what helps to keep me grounded and centered. So even if you are somebody who suffers from antisocialness behavior, I highly suggest you maintain being social. I think that actually will help go a long way with your mental health. So, Doc says, "Hi Alex, I'm late. Love when you share about yourself and how much wisdom you share." I don't know if it's wisdom, well, maybe it might be wisdom. I mean, the definition is that I've been through it. I know what's worked for me. So maybe perhaps what's worked for me can help others. But yeah, I used to have a channel that was dedicated to talking about mental health. I don't do it anymore. I think some people are really confused as to why. They're like, why? That's a great idea. The reason why is because what ends up happening is I became kind of like a beacon of hope for a lot of people with mental health issues. And I think that what ended up happening was they were really hoping that by being my friend, I could help pull them out of whatever they were experiencing. Thing is that, with an individual person, I can try to help them, but there's no way I can be friends with thousands of people all at once. It's really difficult to be personal friends with that many people. And so I would get like emails all the time, I need your help, can you talk to me? And all I could think was, oh my gosh, I can't help all these people. Like, these are people who, some of them really needed to be hospitalized, in my opinion. Not as a joke, but like literally, I think they really needed some help. And the thing was that I'm not the person that can help them. Some of these people really do need, a doctor. And so, it got to the point where I was overwhelmed because there was nothing I could do. So I think that that's why I stopped that channel talking about mental health, was because there's a point where you reach that everybody, they want to reach their hand out and ask for help, but I'm not the person who can do that for them. So, and that is kind of a sad thought, I think, because I think I've always been inclined to want to help people. I'm not perfect. I mean, I will be the first to admit that sometimes I can be pretty abrasive. Sometimes I can be a hothead. I can lose my temper. I'm not a perfect person. But nevertheless, that doesn't stop me from wanting to help people. That's just how I am. But yeah, I think that sometimes you have to take a step back and go, okay, there are other people who can do this job if those folks want to reach out to them. So, yeah. Louis or Louis, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Are you still into theme parks? Well, I've never been into theme parks. I enjoy the history of Disneyland Park in California, but there are no other theme parks in the world that I enjoy. I'm not a theme park person. But when it comes to talking about Disneyland history on my channel, I don't think I'll be doing that as much as I used to, if not at all, possibly. And that's just because I think that I've lost interest in the company. It's just not the company I used to enjoy. It's not even the same company that it was when I used to work for them. So yeah, I don't see myself doing any more Disneyland-based history and stuff. I did do the Disneyland Railroad, but actually that wasn't because it was Disney. I did the Disneyland Railroad video because I really wanted to put out this video about Forney locomotives, and I wanted to reference my Disneyland content to talk about that specific thing. And I realized I was like, I kind of need to redo the Disneyland Railroad video because it was getting kind of old and not as good a quality as I wanted. So that's why I redid it, but it wasn't because I wanted to talk about Disneyland. Derek says, I'm good. Nice model railroad. Thank you. Yeah, working on a caboose right now. It's a model kit. It looks pretty complicated, but I'm going to give it a shot. Everett says, so are you out of your comfort zone? It doesn't appear to me you are an absolute natural when it comes to educating and sharing with us fans your awesome talents. I actually am. I am out of my comfort zone. I'm not naturally a very social person. I know I talk a lot, so it seems like I am, but I think that's because after all these years of doing YouTube, I've learned how to talk like a social person. But I am out of my comfort zone. I would prefer to be the person behind the camera as opposed to the person in front of the camera. But, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. Oh, I don't know what that is, but that part looks really cool. I don't think I'm going to paint it, though. Just trying to remember all the things that need to be painted. I can hear the locomotive squeaking now. I oiled it before I started the live stream, but I think eventually the oil kind of dries up. There's something about that oil I use that it dries up. I don't know why, but it does. Okay, so the part I'm painting right now it's a sandwich of walls. There's an exterior wall, interior wall, and in between is an intermediate wall. The intermediate wall I don't think needs to be fully painted because it is just sandwiched in between. But the edges of the windows and the doors and all the edges need to be painted. So that way, when you sandwich them together, if any parts poke out, it doesn't look weird. And I don't think I have to be very specific with the stroke of the paint on these parts because it's not... like this one, they carved slats into it, and the slats show the stroke of the paintbrush. But this part is very flat. It doesn't show the stroke of the paintbrush, so I think I can actually get away with just painting it in any direction. Doc says, every time we go out of our comfort zone, we make the neurological connection stronger between socializing and positive outcomes on a biological level. That's what's happening. Well said. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know it in as many words, but that's what I was just telling people was like when people say like, what's your secret to, you know, how well you do? I was just telling them that, you know, the two main things that I do is I have a hobby. I always try to stick with my hobbies that help to center me, you know, calm me down. And then the other thing too is I highly recommend to people that they stay social. That there's something about the way that humans are hardwired to be social that actually helps us to maintain good mental health. You'd think that being an antisocial person, the best thing for you would be not to be social, but that's not how it should be. So yeah, I try to at least move out of my comfort zone once in a while. I think one of the things that makes me the most uncomfortable is being in large crowds, which is weird. I know a lot of you have seen me vlog from Disneyland, but actually being at Disneyland was very uncomfortable for me. And but I did it because well, for one thing, it's always good to go out and meet up with friends and maintain, you know, those social relationships with people. But the other thing too is that there's something about doing something that takes you out of your comfort zone, such as being in large crowds, that can actually help you. I don't know. It's just part of my philosophy that it just helps. And I don't know, maybe, you know, psychologist like Doc can explain, but yeah, it does something. It helps. I think that's what's worked for me. Uh, Lewis or Louis? I still don't know. Is it Lewis or is it Louis? Says, no problem. Yeah, Disney died years ago for me. Whatever now sits in their place isn't Disney for me, but they carry the facade of Disney while trying to empty your wallets by any means. Yeah, I can understand that that perspective. I probably share most of that perspective as well. Yeah, it is kind of weird when I see Disney stuff nowadays. It doesn't feel like Disney stuff. It feels like it's from another planet. It's kind of weird. It's like I don't recognize it, which is a strange thing for me. How do I not recognize something that's so recognizable? But it's just changed. It's changed. Change, I don't think, is inherently a bad thing. Um, but I think it's how something changes that matters. Now, I think famously I've told people I I am not conservative nor liberal. I am not a Democrat nor a Republican. I'm actually right in between. I would consider myself a moderate. So I don't see what Disney does. Not everything Disney does is a political issue for me. Nor am I upset about it because I think it's a political issue. In fact, it's very different. To me, it's just the quality. What upsets me about the changes to Disney is not, Splash Mountain being bulldozed or something. It's just the quality of the park. It's like, I feel like I repeat myself, so I'm sorry if I do, but I always talk about, like, when I was a kid, I would visit Disneyland, and every shop was different. Every single shop was different. There was even an antique shop in New Orleans Square, where you could buy real antiques. There was an actual Crystaliers shop on Main Street. They still have one, but it's not by the same company. And everything that they make there, or not everything that they sell there, is pre-made. But there was a Crystaliers shop there before, where you could get custom things made for you. You just had to order it. There were things like that. Everything down to the churro carts on Main Street. The churros were handmade. The batter was made in a main kitchen. The batter was brought out to the churro carts, and then they cooked the batter into a churro right in front of you. Now today, it's all pre-ordered. It's a frozen. What do you call it? It's pre-frozen, and they take it out of the packaging, and then they deep fry it. And it's not terrible, but it definitely is not anywhere near as good as it was when I was a kid. And so it's those things that upset me. It's also, the prices of the food and beverages. The admission prices, while astounding, actually do not bother me. As a former cast member, I know that actually the high ticket prices are necessary because the park is so overcrowded without high ticket prices. And they have to turn people away at the gates, and that creates even worse issues for them than just people complaining about prices. So that's something that I know that they have to do. But I will admit, I am priced out of Disneyland. So even though I'm not against them raising prices like they have, I myself am priced out of Disneyland. I don't think I can afford it normally. I would have to make a very special, like, expensive trip to get there. So, but yeah. And that's fine. Like, I'm not going to I think some people would be like, oh, Alex, what are you complaining about? You were there for years. You went all the time. And that's true. That's why I'm not going to complain. I've been to Disneyland enough times in my life that I don't need to worry about not being there, So that's why I personally don't complain, is because I know there are people who really want to go who've never been, and those are the people that probably have the right to complain. So I've been there enough times. I don't need to open my mouth and complain to you guys about not going. So, let's see. Ah, okay, so it is Louis. I'll call you Louis. I like the name Louis more than Louis. Louis is okay, but I like Louis. Doc says, you are right. We are wired for social connection, anxiety. Trauma can interfere with our abilities to connect, but if we push through, it does get better, and it's rewarding, and you know your stuff. Well, when I was a teenager, my friends and I used to hang out at Barnes & Noble. That was kind of one of our things. I know, a lot of other teenagers, they went and, like, smoked pot or something. We didn't do that. Well, at least not me. And we went to, like, Barnes & Noble, and we would read books and stuff. Which is weird, because we were a bunch of punk rockers and goths. Like, so yeah, walking into a Barnes & Noble was weird. They thought we were going to steal stuff, but we actually went around, picked up books, sat down, and read. That's what we did. And so I read a bunch of stuff. I read some things on, like psychology. I don't remember what I read. But I picked up some books that looked interesting. It was about human psychology and how we think and how we're hardwired and all that stuff. So I did do that. And I think that's where I kind of learned some things about how people work. I've always been interested in psychology, but the thing is I'm not smart enough to go to college to be a psychologist. And now with schizophrenia, I definitely can't remember things that I learn. But yeah, I think psychology is really interesting. Learning how people's minds work. I think one of the most interesting things, there's actually a video about it on YouTube, is the way that Fred Rogers talked to people. Mr. Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. The way that he talked to people, not just children, but people. He talked to everybody the same way. His tone of voice, his inflection, the choice of words he made, everything was very calculated, and yet it looked like he was talking just, willy-nilly. But Fred Rogers was he had a degree, some kind of degree in psychology, child psychology at least, and he wanted to better the world, and he felt that the way that you talk to people and how you address them and the example you set can go a long way in making the world a better place. And he was right, but there's videos about how he chose to talk, what the things he said, the way that he speaks. And it's very interesting because Fred Rogers, he could talk to someone who was, just difficult. Maybe they're angry, but his way of talking to them could win them over. And it was really just genius. And so I thought, wow, that's amazing that, that if you learn how people work, how their minds work, and simple ways that you can treat people, it'll go a long way with making things more peaceful. So, Yeah, that's always kind of set an example for me. Again, I'm not perfect, so I think sometimes I let my own anger get the best of me, but for the most part, I try to follow that example. I think it's a good example. Louise says, same here. I'm sure I'm still a bit mad about Splash Mountain's removal and replacing it to satisfy haters. But what kills me is that they'll probably replace it with mostly screens. Uh, I think there is a tendency to think that Disney is replacing Splash Mountain to satisfy people who do not like Splash Mountain. But actually, I remember as a cast member, way back in 2009, when the movie Princess and the Frog came out, I remember that was my first year working for Disney. One of my friends was kind of like my insider into how Disney worked because a lot of his friends were Imagineers and all that stuff. And I would have conversations with him all the time. And even way back in 2009, he said, yeah, Imagineering is talking about replacing Splash Mountain with Princess and the Frog. And the reason why back then was actually not to do with race or how people felt about the ride. It was because the ride was outdated. Disney at the time, the way Iger works is that he wants the Disney stories to be relevant to people. It's kind of like what Bob Chapek said when he said, we want to put more Disney in Epcot. It's the same thing. So Iger actually felt that way about Disneyland rides as well, was that there needs to be more stuff that's relevant to people. So I think actually as far back as 2009, the ideas had begun, but back then it wasn't about that. Now I've heard rumor that Disney has or is planning to, I don't keep up with the news by the way, that Disney has or is planning to tell people that the recent concerns that people have expressed about Splash Mountain is what led them to changing it. But I would argue that if Disney says that to people, that's not true. I think it was way before that. I don't think it's up to me to tell people what to think. Dolly Parton said something that was really amazing. They asked her a question. I don't remember the question, but they asked her a question. They said, what do you think about this and that? And she says, she said in her own Dolly Parton way, but she said, darling, she's like, my job is to sing, not to tell you what to think. And so I think that's kind of who I am, is like, I'm not going to tell you what you should think about Splash Mountain and its changes. I don't think it's even for me to say whether or not it is an offensive thing, because, there's stuff supporting it, and there's stuff supporting the other, thing about it too. I have articles upon articles of stuff about Song of the South and, about the animator saying what it really was and why it's that way and stuff like that. So there's an argument for both directions. But it's kind of like my ghost thing. If you feel that it's real, then I'll believe you. Because if that's what you think, then that's, So if someone says, I find that ride offensive, I think, I'm like, all right, well, I can't tell you what to think. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong or you're right. I think it really just depends on who you are and what you've experienced in your life. And so, yeah. I guess in my roundabout way of saying it, I don't know whether I find the Splash Mountain debacle an issue of race, but what I can say is, when I think of Disney rides, whatever you replace a ride with, you better do a really good job at it. If you were to replace Pirates of the Caribbean with some really terrible ride that doesn't make any sense and it doesn't look good, people are going to be upset. So I think as long, in my opinion, just for me, I think if their placement that they do to Splash Mountain looks and feels like a nicely done Disney attraction, then I will be happy. If they cut, the budget down and they don't do a very good job and it's just, just done halfway, I think that's what will make me more upset, is just that they're not taking their time. But then again, I actually watched the fireworks show that they have last night, the new one. And I'm not usually into Disney fireworks because I think they usually do a terrible job at it. But that fireworks show was pretty good. If Remember Dreams Come True was a 10, between a 1 and 10, then I think the new Wondrous Journeys is like a solid 8. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think I have confidence that maybe they'll do a pretty good job on Princess and the Frog. I could be also biased because the Princess and the Frog movie is a movie I really love. I had always wanted to be a cook. And when I watched the movie, and Tiana was all about being a cook and, living in New Orleans. New Orleans is another thing I really love and I want to explore more of. But I was like, this is a character I can connect with. I think it's really cool. So, I don't know. I think part of me is also kind of excited to see it. But, yeah. Yeah. Well, Ben, I'm not going to knock you for thinking that. There probably are aspects to it that really are. But I don't think the movie was made with the intention of being a racist movie. As crazy as that might seem. And one of the reasons why I think that, and this is just one of the reasons, but, there is a quote from, if I remember the actress's name, Hattie McDaniels, who played the domestic servant in the movie. She was a famous actress in her own right, black actress, and she said, if I remember the quote correctly, word for word, she said, okay, I'm going to have to paraphrase. I don't remember the quote exactly. But she said that if she had thought the movie, Song of the South, was harmful or detrimental to her people, and here's the part I do remember, I would not have appeared therein. And I think there is something to explore there, at least. Explore, why did people like James Baskett, Hattie McDaniels, why did they not only show up in the movie, but why did they defend it against people who said it was racist? There must be more to the story than just what meets the eye. So, I'm not going to tell people what they should or shouldn't be offended by. But I do wonder if there is more to it. So, there's people today who, I think there was one lady who did an interview talking about how the stories themselves kind of carry on the tradition or whatever. I don't know. But I think that I think the point is that there are people who find a compelling argument that it's not racist. And so I can't help but wonder, you know, what else there is to it, you know? See, Patrick says, train, what type of passenger car was at Disney? Wait, what? Type of passenger car was at Disney, open sides, bench seating. I'm planning stage of my railroad, looking at the Herman Park train in Houston. And do you know the... Oh, there's a lot to unpack in that. Passenger car was at Disney. Open sides, bench seating. The only thing I can... There was a passenger coach train with open sides. That was the first car of the Retlaw 1 train. It was a combination baggage and passenger car. So it had school bus bench seating. I don't know. I think your question's really, really open-ended. Because almost... I mean, that fits the definition of every train in Disneyland, technically. So I don't know which one you're referring to. Louise says, I used to love miniatures when I was little, but grew out of it in my early teens years, sadly. Though I still greatly appreciate the skill that goes into them. Yeah, it's a lot. I don't think I've ever taken on a project that was this complex, to be totally honest. Okay, now for the second coat. Patrick says, this train was open side seat, went all the way across the coach. Okay, well, I would have to refer you to my video about the Disneyland Railroad. I posted one, I think, almost 2 weeks ago. In there, I detail every train that existed at Disneyland. Because, again, the question you asked me, that again, fits the definition of all the trains at Disneyland. But if you watch that video, there's a good... It goes into extreme detail as to what the trains are and what they're meant to replicate, that kind of thing. So, I think... Like, if you could tell me which train you were talking about, Holiday 2, which is Holiday Red, Holiday Blue or Holiday Green, which is Holidays 4 and 5, or the Excursion train, because that also fits the Excursion train. But if you could tell me which ones, I could try to tell you more about them. Because there's stuff I didn't even put in the video that just would have taken too long. But I could tell you more about them. Louis says, if you want any help, here's a great video of how to do realistic rock work from a famous attraction designer here in the UK. I think I've seen the video. Everybody sends me the same video of the same guy. It's been seen, I think, by millions of people. But yeah, I've seen... I'm I'm almost certain, because everybody who's like, hey, you got to see this video, it's the same video. So, yeah, Lewis, on a chat, you can't send the link, but John's Miniatures, yeah, that sounds familiar. Louis says it's not really a simple technique, but it does give off a great look. Yeah. Patrick says, okay. Alright, now here's the second coating. Well, that already looks better. What's kind of cool, too, is that the laser had cut grooves to make it look like there is a tongue-and-groove siding that the car is made out of. And even though when I first put the paint on the wood, it kind of looks like it covers up those slats that have been cut into it, when it dries, it makes almost like a dark line in the slats, which really makes them more pronounced. So I think that actually makes it look really good. Patrick says, my rock work, I use chicken wire and real rock, then the plaster. Oh yeah, that sounds a lot like the Disney way of doing it. It's looking nice. Oh. Louisa, sounds similar to what they applied to the Matterhorn Bobsleds Mountain. Yep. TT says, Alex, do you know the Netflix series High Seas? It's a Spanish mystery. Ship is based on the Queen Mary. Yeah, I do know it. I've tried watching it, but I couldn't really get into it. I would say the outside of the ship is based on Queen Mary. I was really looking forward to it because I thought the interiors would have been filmed on the ship, but it wasn't. They weren't even... The interiors weren't even... didn't even look like Queen Mary at all. But, I mean, that's okay. Not everything can be filmed on the Queen Mary. But, there is a new Disney show coming out. I don't know the name, but it stars like 4 kids or whatever, and they do some kind of mystery hunting or whatever. But the new season supposedly takes place on the Queen Mary. So, and apparently they did a lot of filming on the ship, so I might tune into that show just to see the Queen Mary. Daniel says, hey, Alex, is it possible to apply coffee stirs for bridge? Because that's my idea for my layout. Yeah, if they're strong enough, then yeah, you can. I've actually built bridges out of coffee stirs before. It was for N scale, though. But yeah, I used basically these types of coffee stirs, and I did it for my N scale bridges. And it worked pretty well. But with these larger scales that like I have, these are much heavier trains, so I would recommend something more robust. But if you're going to use it to create like just decorative slats and stuff like that, then yeah, absolutely. The trestle bridge that you see going around on the screen, the diagonal parts that crisscross between the bridge bents are these coffee stirs. Gabe says, what do you think if Olympic wasn't broken up, but in a different timeline she saved from the cutting torch and turned into a hotel liner like the Queen Mary? Is. It would have been pretty cool because I think, like, for those of us that are fans of Titanic and, you know, want to explore that, the Olympic would be the coolest thing. I mean, Olympic is cool enough on its own, you know, let alone being, you know, the sister ship of Titanic. But yeah, it would have been cool if Olympic had been preserved. It would have been a miracle, though, if Olympic had still been around till today, though. I think what a lot of people don't realize is how miraculous it is that Queen Mary's been around this long. You know, I think we take for granted that, you know, she's just, you know, oh, well, she's turned into a hotel, so of course she's going to be there forever and ever. But no. You know, look at what happened to the Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth went to be a museum out in Port Everglades. It was not managed very well, it didn't do very well, and therefore it had to be sold. So it is rather miraculous that Queen Mary is still around for us to see today. Because it could have very much gone in a different direction. Patrick says, okay, I found the car in your video. It was engine number 4. That's the type of car I'm looking for in HO. So, a car and an engine are two different things. Are you looking to replicate the steam locomotive engine, or are you looking to replicate the Holiday 4 passenger coaches? I think you were talking about passenger coaches. So, Holiday 4... Okay, so those are basically a... they're designed to be a 5/8 scale... what do you call it? Flat car. A 5/8 scale flat car. And they were given 2 rows of sideways facing bench seats. They also have walls on either end. The forward end is a wall with 3 windows. The back end is a wall with 3 windows. It measures 6.5 feet wide by, I believe it's 9 feet tall. Yeah, because it's shorter than the thing. So yeah, it's 9 feet tall. It uses tie rods to keep the center aligned, although the frame is made of metal. Traditionally, due to its replicated age, it would have been made of wood in real life, but the frame is made of metal because it's 5/8 scale and it still has to handle the weight of full-size people. So the frame is made of metal, but the frame would have originally been made of wood. Let's see. Trying to think if there's anything else about Holiday 4. So the length, I didn't tell, the length is 36 feet. Probably 36 and a half feet from coupler to coupler. So, or is it 36 feet 8 inches? Okay, the body of the car is 36 feet. We'll just put it like that. The coupler length changes that length, but I forget the coupler length. But yeah, the body of the passenger car is 36 feet long. And if it helps, from the floor of the car to the peak of the canopy is exactly 7 feet. Exactly 7 feet, yeah. Yeah. Derpy, yeah. The show I'm talking about is the Mysterious Benedict Society. That's the one where season 2 takes place on the Queen Mary. This is actually turning out pretty nice because the brush strokes make it look like you can see the grain in the wood. Of course, it could also actually be the actual grain in the wood I'm working on. Time is it? 4:13. So we've been on this live stream for just over 2 hours. Okay. I don't have a deadline or anything. I've still got tons of power on that camera battery. One day I'll paint the interiors of the passenger cars, because they're not painted. They're just they just have like a basic kind of color to them. Louis says, I can't believe SS United States is being left to rust, with it being a very special and unique ship. Yeah, it is pretty sad. Somebody asked me the other day, they sent me an email, they were like, hey, what do you think about SS United States and its ability? And so I was kind of telling them, I was like, there is a long way to go if someone's going to try to help it, but it can be done with enough money. There we go. And I think these small parts here will get another coat, because with the one coat it's not dark enough. I wasn't originally going to give these parts a second coat, but... Patrick says, we got a train show here in a few weeks. Maybe I can find them. Thanks. I really enjoyed your video on the trains. I was there in the late 70s, the diorama of the Grand Canyon. Oh, yeah. Hello, Haley. Patrick says, do you weather as you build? No, actually. I've never weathered anything before. I never got to that stage, actually. But, I think the weathering I'll do long after I'm done building it. Just because I have to take time to decide how I want to weather things and, what level of weathering should be done. TT says, what do I think of the cancelled White Star Liner RMMV Oceanic? What if Oceanic had been built instead of Queen Mary? I actually don't know much about the RMVV Oceanic. No, RMMV Oceanic. I prefer steam-powered liners, traditional-looking liners. The Oceanic was definitely not traditional looking. It was very modern looking. I'm not sure that I would have enjoyed it as much. What's funny is I was just thinking right now to myself that I was just telling everybody at the beginning of this live stream that I don't know how this build is going to go because I don't have much patience. I like just get something done, If it can be done in a day, that's beautiful for me. This is one of those projects where I can actually see it taking a couple of weeks to do. And aside from building the model layout, I don't think I've ever worked on something that took that long. I think the Titanic model I built took 5 days. And that was excruciating for me because my brain just wants to get it all done at once. I can't stand letting things sit and not be completed. But I was just thinking to myself, this is one of those projects that, in a way, it might take me longer than building the Titanic model. And I thought, am I going to be okay at the end of the project? Because, asking me to sit this long, watching this thing come together and not be done is a lot to ask of me. So I'm like kind of like, I hope I can do this. You know, I hope that I can have the patience to wait for this to be done and done properly. I don't know if I can. 'Cause I was thinking of that because of how long it's taken me to paint this. I started painting about an hour and a half ago. No, almost 2 hours ago now. I've been painting for that long. It doesn't seem like something that would take that long to paint, but you know, doing 2 coats, you'll be surprised. All right. Louis says, would you... Would I want SS United States to be put back into working condition as an ocean liner? If so, do I think it would be successful? If the Queen Mary is, imagine the SS United States popularity. Well, Queen Mary isn't sailing the oceans anymore. She's sitting around, you know, as a hotel and museum. I think if the Queen Mary was put back out on the ocean, I don't think that she would last much longer. I think that she would not get the business that she needs to keep her viable. You know, so that goes for the question of, you know, whether I think the SS United States would, whether I think SS United States would do a good job back on the ocean as an ocean liner. I don't think so. I think that the days of ocean liners, as we once knew them, are done. It would be far too expensive to try to run the SS United States as an ocean liner. Oh, I think that's all. What is that? Oh, that needs to be... Oh, I forgot about those. I thought I was done, and then I found out that there's windows on this side that I didn't do. Haley says, do you have kids? No. No, I don't have kids. Patrick says, is that a Lionel train behind you? No, I do not do Lionel. That is a Bachmann train behind me. I work in On30 scale, so you actually can't buy Lionel trains in that scale. You can buy them in O scale, but not On30. Okay, those windows will need a second coat, so I'll give them a second to just dry out. Patrick says, just got off the celebration a few weeks ago. No way the Queen could compete. Yeah. Queen Mary just, old ocean liners, they just don't offer the things that people would want anymore. Really only the... Oh, sorry. A little sleepy. Only the major ocean liner fans would be interested in a 100% accurate, experience aboard an ocean liner. But a lot of people today, even if you tried to sell them the idea of a classic experience, they might not realize just how classic that classic experience would be. There would be things that they thought that, like on ocean liners, they had events and things to do, but it wasn't fun necessarily. It was pastimes. It was things you did to pass the time. You played a round of cards. You did little fake horse races. You played bingo, that kind of thing. That's not what you expect from a cruise, And so most people today, the ocean liner industry is so far out of our memories that people today would assume that being on an ocean liner would be like being on a cruise ship. In fact, most people refer to ocean liners as cruise ships because they literally think that people took them in the past as a form of cruise. But it's, so that's the thing is that when people would get to their portholes and they'd be like, or not their portholes, their staterooms, and go to their porthole and say like, oh my gosh, there's no view, there's nothing to see, the room feels claustrophobic, it's so dark, it's, most people today can't appreciate wood paneling. They think wood paneling looks cheap and tacky. They don't realize how exotic the wood paneling is and how beautiful it is. So most people today being on an ocean liner would not have a jolly good time. And I think that ocean liner fans can tend to forget that because we're such fans of the ships, that we can't imagine that people would not want to be on one, So, let's see. If it was a cruise ship, it would need a lot of modifications, but it would still be one of the most expensive cruise ships you ever took, just because of the sheer expense of keeping that old thing, in operation. Who knows? I mean, I really don't know what they could add to it or what they could do because I'm not much of an engineer, but I mean, I just have a feeling it wouldn't do very well. Sarah is here. Hello, Sarah. Sarah says, are those stickers or wooden panels? Both, actually. So they are little, like, balsa wood sheets that a laser has cut out the shape of the car. I just painted them right now, so that way when I cut them out, I can assemble them and it'll look nice. Actually, that needs to be redone. But yeah, so... They are wood, but they have little stickers on the back that should make it easier to sandwich the layers of the walls together. Because actually, these are layers. These 3 sheets in front of me, this is all one wall. This is like sandwiched layers. But yeah. Now I'll do the... Jeez. I'll do the second coating around those windows. Working on the Rivarossi Big Boy model right now. Oh, nice. Patrick says, never did care for the 3-rail system. I don't either. I'm not a fan of the 3-rail Lionel stuff. Haley, hope you start a family soon if you find a girlfriend. I do not want a girlfriend, and I'm certainly not starting a family. It is not in what is... It is not what my life is meant to be. Let's see. TT says, does Cunard still use graphic posters for their new ships like back then? And do Cunard hire graphic artists? They have a department within the company that is in charge of creating the marketing ads, and so part of the posters that they do is part of their marketing ads team. Okay. I'm done with that one. Yeah. All right. So the interior walls. This whole thing is all the interior walls. So I think when I do the color for the interior, I will not need to mix any more color, because this is the interior. That I might have to keep the color in case I need to do other things, but the interior color is always going to be the same. So I'll mix up a temporary color for this panel. On a temporary meaning like I'll wash it out when I'm done. This one I'm not going to wash out. I'm going to keep it in the jar. LMG Vids, how's it going? If Queen Mary had a double reduction gearbox instead of a single, would it have affected her overall speed? I think so. Because the double reduction would have reduced the strain of the drag of the water even more, and would have allowed the Queen Mary's engines, or the turbine engines, to spin even faster. So if she had a double reduction, the turbines could have spun even faster, giving her more horsepower. But I think, see, there's something weird about physics that I don't understand. But what I do understand is that you might be able to add an extra reduction gear to Queen Mary and make her go faster, but it would only be by a small amount. She would probably be able to go 1 knot faster, and it has something to do with the way physics are. I think you would have to custom build brand new double reduction geared engines to make her go more than, 33.5 or 34 knots. So, but yeah, I do think that you might be able to get 1 more knot of speed out of her if she had a double reduction gear turbine. But yeah, it has something to do with physics. Something that I don't understand. Louis says, I believe that classical experiences still strike the modern audience, as the replica French frigate Hermione, I think that's how you say it, is a very well-known ship, even to the general audience. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that classical experiences aren't interesting to people. I think what I mean is that, like, if you were to bring the Queen Mary back, there would be certain things that people wouldn't be able to stand. Trying to, like, take my mind off of this and then try to focus on that to answer the question. Like, you couldn't... Okay, one of the problems with the Queen Mary is that she was originally designed to have a passenger capacity around 3,000 people. Right? If you wanted her to turn a profit, she would need to have her capacity of 3,000 people. And then you would need to charge a lot of money, like a lot of money. That's fine. Maybe those people will pay it. But the thing is that you can't give the Queen Mary a 3,000 passenger capacity unless you plan to either add more decks to the top of the ship or to bring back the second and third class cabins. And that would be a huge problem because second class passengers did not have their own bathrooms. They had to share with other people. They did not have their own baths. They had to share with other people. The rooms were cramped and much smaller. And then with third class, it was even worse. The rooms were much, much smaller. They were closet spaces. And so the thing is that it would be very difficult to fill that many rooms with modern guests. They would get quite sick of it very quickly. And so, yeah, I think that would be kind of the problem. Now, the thing about a frigate is that it goes out for a quick voyage and it comes back. It's not, you don't have to spend multiple nights on it. But if you were like doing a cruise on the Queen Mary or a crossing on the Queen Mary, you would have to spend multiple nights on there. So there would be things like that. As well as the fact that the ships today are designed with much better insulation, so you shouldn't be able to hear that much between rooms and levels. But on Queen Mary, she just doesn't have that. So unless you plan to remove all her bulkheads and reinstall better insulated bulkheads, you will hear everything that happens both in the engine room and throughout all the decks. That already happens as she is a hotel. Another issue would be just the difficulty of implementing modern amenities, I know it's hard to imagine, and I'm trying to come up with really good examples, but unless I have all my stuff in front of me, like my computer is on the other side of the room, unless I had all my stuff in front of me and then I could like say, okay, this is something, that's something, this is something, that's something, I can't do that then. But there are features of the Queen Mary and old ocean liners that people would get quite sick of very quickly, So yeah, yeah. Okay, trying to. Blow Mold Fandom says, have you always been a fan of trains? Yeah, pretty much as far as I can remember, since I was very, very, very little. I've always had model trains. My grandfather was really into model trains. My dad was really into model trains. So I've always grown up in a family that, you know, even my step great grandfather was into trains. So yeah. Sarah says, thanks, Alex. Heading out to de-hoard my mother's house for a few hours. Okay. Louise says, I definitely believe that there are aspects of the Queen Mary that would be unacceptable nowadays. I'm saying keep what's still good, do something different that's not considered good, like second and third class rooms. Patrick says, bring back the days of rail travel. I'm in. Amtrak just ain't the same. Right, Two Pips says, it infuriates me when society pressures and expects people to get married and have kids. Just let people do what they want. I have to agree, Ritupiap, and maybe I'll break into a little rant here, but let me get the paints out first. First, you guys, do I want a green interior like the Disneyland Railroad caboose, or do I want a tan interior like the actual prototype caboose? Let me know. Do I want green or tan for the interior? I haven't decided yet. Brown. Bring out green just in case. Yeah. Alright, let's see. Kevin says green. Okay. Louis says tan. Chris says, hey Alex, do you have any family members who work for the railroad? No, I don't think anybody in my family has ever worked for a railroad. No. My mother once had a friend who worked for the railroad. And he used to tell me, like, stories of what it was like, but I don't believe anybody in my family has ever worked for the railroad. Yeah. Mateo says green. Chris says, my cousin Howard was a conductor on the Santa Fe Railroad. Nice. Okay, so that's 2 greens, 1 tan. Gosh. I can't decide. Because originally I was like, oh, green, you know. But then I saw the interiors of the original caboose, and I was like, the tan doesn't look so bad either. But the green might be really nice. Well, there are 2 votes for green. So let me go ahead and do a test of the green. I have here a paint mixing tray. Oh, now we have a vote for tan. Tan matches the red better. I don't know. I feel like on Disneyland Railroad, the green matches the red just as well. There's another one for green. Okay, let's try. We'll try the green, you guys. We'll see. I'll do a test with there's an extra piece of wood here in the corner, and I'll test that. So let me just mix some green together. I'm going to try to match the green that's on Disneyland Railroad. In fact, I'm almost certain this is the green that's on Disneyland Railroad. I might not need to do anything. It looks just like the green. Okay, so white. Oh, that's Key West. So I think I need like a dash of white to make this green. Because it's kind of almost like a pastel green, but not quite pastel. It's still pretty, what's the word? Pretty vibrant. Hey, California Rail Productions. Jeremy says, I work for the Boston and Maine Railroad, which was bought by Pan Am Railways. Now we are owned by CSX. It's a fun job, but... Wait, it's a fun job, but a fun one. Maybe someday I'll get up to Alaska to work for their rails. Chris says he started working for the Santa Fe Railroad when steam locomotives were still being used. Right out of... He worked there after he got out of military in World War II. Oh, nice. I think this is the green. I think just that one drop of white made it the green. Okay. Now we'll do a test on the corner here. That looks like the green. I think I just matched it perfectly. Just like one drop of white that made it. TT says, Alex, what paints do you use? Which brand? The ones I'm currently using right now is a really cheap brand called Apple Barrel. Normally I would use like model paints such as either Timea or... What's the other one called? Or Mr. Color. But those are more expensive. I was able to get large amounts of craft paint. And again, it's Apple Barrel. It looks like a children's paint, but honestly, it looks really nice when you paint with it. It looks just as good, in my opinion, as using a brand like Timea or Mr. Color. And the only difference is that it's very, very cheap. Yeah, I think that's the green. Yeah, so we'll paint with that. All right, Louis is on his way out. Have a good night, Louis. Is it sold at Walmart? Wouldn't surprise me, to be honest. It's a good paint. At first I was kind of like, oh, I don't want to use this, but I've seen some stuff painted with it now, and I'm kind of like, this actually works. Okay, so wow, a little bit of this green goes a long way. Wow, it wasn't like that for the red. Probably because I wet the paintbrush with the red. But still, jeez. I like this green. It looks nice. If it was any other color of green, I wouldn't have done it, I don't think, because there's just something very nice about this green color. But yeah, if it was any other color of green, I would have probably done the tan instead. Again, I know the tan is more prototypical, but there's nothing prototypical about the rest of my railroad. It's entirely made up. Let's see here. Wow, yeah, a little bit of that green goes a long way. Pick up some of that green there. Drop it off over there. Have a good night, Louie. I think I'll end the live stream once I'm done painting this. It might need a second coat, but otherwise, when I'm done, that's when I'll end the live stream. Otherwise, we'll be here forever. But I think I'll continue working on the train layout, because these will need to dry overnight before I can work on them. I'll probably have my dad come over tomorrow to help me out. He was working today, so he couldn't come over. But that's okay. Yeah, that looks really nice. Yeah, Chris, don't worry. I knew what you meant. Okay. Yeah, I was watching a video the other day. There's a city just north of Portland in the state of Washington where they did a train show. I had almost thought about going to that train show, but it's too far and there wasn't anybody that could take me there. I'm gonna go to one that's here in March, though. But yeah, but at this train show, this guy was showing off the train layout he built. But apparently, over the weekend, the trains that he did, that he like ran around the layout, they had all wore themselves down throughout the weekend. Like the gears and everything wore themselves down. I thought to myself, because he the train show lasted, multiple hours through the day. But I thought to myself, that's so weird that his trains wore down. Like, they're supposed to be designed to keep going and going, you know? I guess anything will wear down if you have it going long enough. But it made me wonder, like, why my trains don't do that. You know, like this one has been going around and around and around through the whole live stream, and we've been on here for almost 3 hours. So I was kind of like, I wonder why that doesn't happen to me, and I wonder if it will happen to me if I take it to a train show. Because I have thought that maybe next year, when this train layout is more complete and looks nice, maybe I'll take it to a train show to show it off. But then I'm like, oh, what if I ruin all my engines after seeing what that guy did to his? But then again, I will admit, he had one train going pretty fast around a loop. The other train was a logging train. It was moving slow, but it was going up steep inclines, which is a lot of wear and tear on your trains. And mine doesn't have that. I don't run my trains that fast, and there's no grades, like no upwards grades or anything for my trains. So I don't think I'll have that same problem. Iron Legion says, may I ask what locomotive is at the layout this moment? Not the one running, the one that looks like a porter. The one that looks like a porter is, well, it is a porter. It's a 042, if that's what you're wondering. But the lettering on the side says it's Midwest Quarry. Although I'll eventually paint over that because it has nothing to do with my railroad. But I hope that answers your question. But yeah, it is a porter. Chris says, one time in the mid-90s, the BNSF Railroad did a railroad safety show by running a locomotive into various vehicles. It was quite interesting. Wow. Well, that's really weird. I'm sure it was pretty cool looking, though. Chris says they did that in my hometown. Iron Legion says once or twice a train even hit a tank. Oh, wow. Oh, see you later, Blowmold fandom. One even hit a plane. Jeez. Sounds like the Demolition Derby. Is that what it's supposed to be like? It's like a train version of a Demolition Derby? Alright. I'm almost done with the first coating of green paint on these interiors. And I think the upper part can get its second coating now. I think I would have preferred a gloss paint for this interior, but honestly, I don't think it matters. I don't have a gloss paint, so... All these paints are matte because matte paint looks really good in miniature. It makes things look more real because they're not, you know, they don't reflect light the way that toys do. So that's why I bought only matte paints. But this interior probably would have looked nice with gloss paint. Ratupia says, what is the Sherlock Holmes-esque silhouette in the oval frame behind you? At Disneyland on Main Street, they have a shop called the Silhouette Studio, and they actually will make your silhouette for you to take home. And it's something that they used to do in the Victorian era a lot because photographs were very expensive. So people who couldn't afford photographs could go get their silhouettes done. And so, yeah, at Disneyland, they do that. And the idea is very simple. You just sit in front of the silhouette artist, and they just take a piece of paper and cut out your silhouette as you sit in front of them. And it was really cool because I was actually kind of worried about doing it because I have a very round head, not very much features to it. In other words, I didn't think my head would make for a very good silhouette. But the lady who did the silhouette for me was really creative with the idea. She took the same features I had, but she kind of made them more childlike in the sense that all the features were shrunk down a bit more. And so it gave a shape to my head. So it didn't look like a bowling ball wearing a hat. It looked like like an actual head. And it looks like my head, if that makes any sense. It's like got my nose, it's got the same chin and the lips and everything from the side profile. So it actually turned out really, really good. I mean, I was almost expecting... You see, I was getting the silhouette done. I honestly thought that it would look terrible. And I thought that when I got home, I'd probably throw it away. But I was going to do it anyway, just to say I got it done. But what actually came out was really, really nice. And so I kept it even to this day. So yeah, I highly suggest people, if you want to get your silhouettes done at Disneyland on Main Street, which they still do them, then I do highly recommend it. It's not exactly cheap, but not expensive either. Yeah, and they'll make your worst features go away. So they're pretty good at that. I'm really happy with how this green came out. I didn't think it would take me literally 3 hours to do these 3 or 4, wood panels, but gosh. But, it'll be worth it if I can just be patient. I think it'll look really good. Okay, second coat has been applied. Looks good. Just needs to dry. Let's see. Oh, California Real Production says, Alex, I think you can take the lettering off with alcohol and scrub it off with a toothbrush and then put decals. Oh, wow, I didn't know you could take off the lettering with alcohol. I'll try that because I didn't want to... Like, there's certain things I will have to, get rid of the lettering. But I like the colors of the rolling stock, so I didn't want to have to, ruin it. So actually, that's really good news that I can still preserve the color by just removing the lettering with alcohol. Chilling in the Frozen North says, good evening, Alex. I recall a while back you demonstrated a logging train. With that in mind, did you ever consider obtaining a Heisler locomotive for your railroad? I did consider it, but logging trains... Okay, so I have a really small layout, and there won't be anywhere on the layout where a logging train, particularly a Heisler locomotive, would look really necessary. Yeah. But I did consider it. I think the other thing I'm worried about, too, is that the Heislers are really, really tall. I wanted a locomotive that was small, because my layout is heavily inspired by the main narrow gauge locomotives and trains. So even this caboose is a model of one of their cabooses, which is much smaller than a caboose you would see on other narrow gauge lines. So, yeah. I think that's why I decided not to get a Heisler. But, yeah. So I'm getting tired for some reason, so my brain is just slowing down. Iron Legion says, just curious, what is your opinion on the Scorpion, the submarine next to Queen Mary? I don't really have an opinion on it. I mean, I know that the city of Long Beach is trying to get rid of it because it's in really bad shape. I mean, I could tell you what kind of bad shape it's in, because that was part of the research I did to make sure I understood the situation that the Queen Mary faces. But it's not like I'm not into military vessels in general. Not that it's Russian or anything. It's just because I'm not into military vessels just in general. So I don't have any particular attachments to the Scorpion submarine. I've been on it once, I think, way back in like 2010, or maybe even earlier than that, probably early 2000s. But I don't have any like emotional attachment to it. I don't have any reason to want to try to keep it at the Queen Mary. I hope that kind of answers your question. I think. Chris says, fun fact, green was a favorite color of Joseph Stalin. His home was painted a dark green. Oh my. Don't know if I wanted to know that. Let's see. Iron Legion says, it's a very pretty green. Oh, thank you. Yeah, this is... it's going to be in shadow, so it'll look darker for you guys, but... Yeah, it's kind of hard to... Oh, sorry. There we go. Yeah, and what's really cool, though, is The exterior walls, I was able to match them to the color of the other rolling stock. Aha. See how close that's matched? Like, isn't that crazy? I think that's crazy. Like, I pretty much matched it. It just boggles my mind. I don't have any particular skills for painting, necessarily. Like, I'm not a bad painter. But it's weird how, like, sometimes I can just really match a color. It's just really weird. California Rail Production says, Alex, when you worked at Disneyland, did a high school band from Franklin High School play on Main Street? Yeah, actually, that does ring a bell. There was a Franklin High School band. I don't remember them very well. Because, I mean, there were so many high school bands, but... Daniel says, hey, Alex, what was the maximum capacity for Queen Mary when she was an ocean liner? The exact number escapes me, but it was something along the lines of 3,200, I believe. Or is it 3? No. No, I'm sorry. I have that totally off. It was around 3,800. Oh gosh, you know, I don't remember. I have the information on my computer, but off the top of my head, I just don't remember. I know that her passenger capacity was almost 3,000. And then there was 1,100 crew. So that probably would have put her more than 4,000 people, but I would have to double check it. I don't have that information in front of me. Let's see. The Iron Legion says, do you have a bobber caboose for your layout? Also, what scale do you model in? I do HOOO. I do On30. That is the scale I model in. So it's O scale, but it's narrow gauge 30. So it's a narrow gauge line. I do have a bobber caboose. It's behind me. It's technically not a true bobber caboose, though, because as you know, bobber cabooses are 2 axles. The bobber caboose I have is 4 axles, but it's the same dimensions as a bobber caboose. But this caboose I'm working on today is much bigger. I just really wanted something that just looked like it fit with the rest of the train, you know? But the bobber caboose that I have is on the end of my logging train. Thank you so much, Sheridan. Right, 2 people says, isopropyl alcohol as well as a brasso rubbing compound can be used for removing prints. Oh, nice. And I'm assuming that the lettering on these cars will be... Yeah, that has to be a print. That's pretty good. Yeah, you're right, because these aren't painted. They're molded that color. So, that's interesting. No, they could be painted as well. Yeah, I'll figure it out. Well, there's a lot of details I never actually noticed on these cars. Pretty neat. Yeah, this caboose will take a long time to build, I think, but it'll look great when it's done. Alright, let's see. TT says, do you think that Queen Mary or ocean liners in general should be more in movies or TV shows? If you had asked me like 5 years ago, I would have said yes. But right now, the Queen Mary and various ocean liners are currently in a lot of stuff. Like, this past year alone, there's been a lot of stuff with ocean liners in it, particularly Queen Mary. So I would say no, I think we're good. We're good for now. It's going well. Going really well. Let's see. Iron Legion says 2,620 passengers in addition to 1,200 crew members. Let's see. Dino says 2,140 passengers, 776 first class cabins, 785 cabin class, tourist class. 579 third class. Yeah, 1,100 crew is a number I'm very familiar with. The passenger capacity looks like other people are getting different numbers out of that. Iron Legion says, did you know the Queen Mary is used in that one Titanic 2 movie? Yes, unfortunately. She was also used in Titanic 666. Oh, wow. Hey, Carter, how's it going? Chris says it takes 66 feet of HO scale track for 1 mile of real track. Interesting. Then that means that it would take 33... No, sorry. It would take... I can't do the math in my head. 132 feet of On30 track to make 1 mile of real track. Yeah, if I did the math correctly. R2PF says, I'm amazed by how high the staff to passenger ratio is. How can that be profitable? Well, number one is how low the workers were paid. They were not paid very well. But the other thing, too, is that, Cunard Passengers paid a lot of money. I think, like, a basic first-class cabin on Queen Mary was almost $200 or something like that, which doesn't sound like much to us now, but back then, that was a lot of money. Passenger cabins. I know that on the last great cruise, people were paying $900 to even $2,000 or $3,000. That doesn't sound right. It had to be more expensive than that. See, I'm nothing without my computer in front of me. Like, I have, like, all the information on my computer. And then, because I take notes of all the books I read and stuff, and I keep the notes on my computer because I have very terrible short-term memory. So trying to remember something that I had read once is sometimes difficult, but, I have the notes and everything on my computer, but... Yeah, I know that on the last great voyage of the Queen Mary, it was something along the lines of, like, $900 plus exorbitantly more. I think $900 was if you were staying in, like, a really, like, small cabin. But it could be multiple thousands. But then again, you were on the ship for 42 days, so... it was, expensive, but it was a long voyage, Carter Asher says, did you know Poseidon is the Queen Mary? Absolutely, yeah. California Rail Production says the video's name is Model Railroader Expert Tip: How to Weather a Steam Locomotive. Okay, I'll take a look at that. Daniel says, hey Alex, your Turbine Liners video is doing very well. Great job. The views are getting back up. Thank you so much. Yeah, I was really worried about that because with a channel like this, in order for me to make more content, the content needs to be viewed, but thankfully it's all going very well. It took a while to kind of figure out what kind of content people really want to see. Everybody says they know what they want to see, but the crowd in general differs from that opinion. And so I want to make stuff that people will watch, as well as stuff that I like making, you know? So it's kind of always 50-50. Like 50% of the video I make is something I really want to make. And then the other 50% is a combination of stuff that I think other people will want to see. So, yeah. Hopefully everything keeps going really well. You guys might have also noticed I haven't produced a single Queen Mary video this whole month. I don't know if anybody noticed that, but that was on purpose. Because I had posted so much Queen Mary content throughout November and December that people actually stopped watching the Queen Mary content. I think subconsciously, I don't think it was consciously, but I think subconsciously people were getting kind of a bit Queen Mary'd out. You know, it was a bit too much. And I think that's probably right. I think almost every video I published throughout December was Queen Mary. So I didn't do Queen Mary at all this month. And I think next month I will pick up again with another Queen Mary video. But there will still be a high focus on other ships and other trains. So let's see, what is today? Today's Saturday. So Friday, this coming Friday, should be my video about the Forney locomotives. And if I have time, I might produce a short video, possibly for Tuesday. It just really depends how much time I have. And yeah, so now as for tomorrow's live stream, I know I normally do a Sunday live stream. It really depends on how tomorrow goes, because my dad might come over. If he does, we might be working on the model railroad. If that's the case, then we might do another live stream exactly like this. Sorry, I know that's loud. And then, but you know, if things go differently, we might just do a tea time. It really all depends. Sundays, I found out that nowadays weekends are like my time to relax from YouTube. So it's possible that I might not even do a live stream tomorrow. But Wednesdays, for sure, I've reserved for tea times. So you can at least be guaranteed that unless something goes horribly wrong, then Wednesdays will definitely have tea time live streams. Because it's middle of the week. I need my break from working on videos in the middle of the week and just like have some tea and just like relax, you know? So that for sure is happening. Chris says, how fast do you think RMS Queen Mary could get up to speed with twin nuclear I don't know. It depends on how big the reactors are, how much steam the boilers could produce. It depends on all those factors. Chilling in the Frozen North says, Alex, I was interested in model railroading a while back. I bought a few magazines and noticed many builders were obsessed with brass locomotives. Do you know why this was? Yes, brass locomotives. So there are manufacturers who manufacture stuff. This train car is from Bachmann, right? But the thing is, sometimes train manufacturers, like model railroad manufacturers, sometimes they just don't produce the stuff that you want. And so, just like this caboose, I wanted this exact caboose. Bachmann does produce a similar caboose, well, used to. It is now extremely rare and costs a lot of money if you want to get one. So I thought, why don't I just get a kit? A kit is cheaper, and it will require my own efforts to paint it and put it together. But it's cheaper, and I get what I want. And those brass locomotives are kind of like kits. You put them together yourself, and essentially you get more variety. It's the only difference is that someone has to print out that brass kit. You know, they punch it out. But I mean, you get what I mean. So that's the magic behind the brass, as well as the fact that some people will say that brass is better because, you know, it's brass, it's metal, it can take a good beating. Sometimes your locomotives, they might slip from your hand and they fall and they break something. The brass ones are a bit hardier because they're metal. As well as the fact that brass locomotives weigh more. So supposedly, because they weigh so much, they actually get better traction on the rails, can pull longer trains because of it. So that's why a lot of people will... they really have a lot of good things to say about brass locomotives. Honestly, I have nothing bad to say about brass locomotives. It's just that I would never get one because that would be a lot of work to put it together. That's too much for me. But that's why people like brass locomotives. Thank you, Chris. Iron Legion says, I noticed no Queen Mary videos. I thought it was strange, but I like all the videos you make. Thank you. Daniel, yes, I did look up info about Elijah McCoy, and I am planning to produce a video for the month of February about his achievements. As well as, guess what? I don't know if was it Doc that was asking? I don't know if Doc is still watching, but I did find some photographs of black celebrities that rode aboard the Queen Mary, which I thought would be kind of really cool to kind of show off for what do you call it? Black History Month next month. So I thought that'd be kind of cool. The only thing is I don't know how much info I could really make out of it. So it might be a short. I might do like a 45-second short that features that. But otherwise, the Elijah McCoy thing, I think I'll make a separate video, like a whole dedicated video to that. And then that'll be featured sometime in February. So, yeah, I've actually got a lot of work cut out for me this February. But I think it'll be really great. I think it'll be fun. Iron Legion says, maybe a video about the gypsy logging locomotives would be neat. I'll have to look that up. I've never heard of that before. Carter says, can you make a Poseidon Adventure video? I don't think so. It's a movie. I prefer making stuff about like things that actually existed. California Rail says, super important. Did you hear that a green comet will pass in the northern hemisphere, California, Oregon, and Washington, on Wednesday? Wait, you could see it. It was last time it came to Earth was 50,000 years ago. You know, ever since we came up here, there's been all kinds of things about comets and space stations and northern lights. And the thing is, every time I go outside to look, can't see anything because it's cloudy. Like, we have nothing but cloudy weather all the time. So, you know, even if there was a comet, we're about to get some rainstorms, so I highly doubt I'll be able to see I doubt I'll be able to see it. So it's just, we have so much cloudy weather up here. Let's see. Iron Legion, that's a weird question. If it was possible, do you think that HMS Britannic could be raised? Well, if it was possible, then yes, it could be raised, but whether or not it should, I don't know. I guess for the sake of not being hypocritical about what I said about Titanic, then I should say, yeah, I think maybe Britannic should. But I don't know. I don't know how important it would be considered to the people of the world, you know. Britannic is not a name you hear very often. Titanic is one that you do, but Britannic, you don't hear that very often. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Um... Alright. Oh, I got through everybody's questions. I am going to... Yeah. Daniel says, could ocean liner wrecks be coral reefs? I mean, some of them are, I think. I mean, any ship could be a coral reef. But, you know, it depends on who does the job. Patrick McCarty says, is it grave robbing to take things from Titanic? I don't think so. It's grave robbing to take things from a pyramid, you know, or the City of the Dead, because the mummies are still there. But Titanic, the people are not there. You know, their bodies are gone, like, after all this time, and there's nothing there. So, no, I don't think it's grave robbing. I think that it's, you know, an educational thing. I don't know. Those are really divisive issues. Chilling in the Frozen Noise says, I enjoyed your turbine video. You obviously put a great deal of effort in research and planning. Thanks, WRT Turbinia. I think some footage exists of her doing the same spithead dash. Would I visit the White Swan Hotel? I want to, but it won't be possible. I'm sorry. But I want to, yeah. Daniel says, okay, see you next stream. See you next stream, Daniel. Chris says, 30-something like people died when the HMS Britannic sank. Yeah, I mean, it's just that I told people that Titanic, there's nothing wrong with raising Titanic, but it would make me sound like a hypocrite if I said no to Britannic. Like, like, I don't know. It's a I'll admit, it's a divisive issue, you know, but that's a whole issue that will take a long time to go through, and we're already done with the live stream, but oh, so weird. It's 5:34 p.m. 5:34. All right, well, folks, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.